Hare Krishna. My name is Vraja Kishor. My newest book is The Beautiful Tales of the All Attractive, Volume 2. So I'm doing this video series exploring the second canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And right now we're up to the first chapter, the first part of the first chapter. In the first part of the first chapter, that's where Śuka Deva Goswāmī actually answers the main question from King Parikshit. The question was, when a person realizes that death is unavoidable, what should they do? That's the question. And it wasn't just a theoretical question for the king, because the king found out that he was going to die in 7 days. Śuka Deva Goswāmī, he really liked this question. He said it benefits everybody. He said, I really like this question because it benefits everyone. How does it benefit everyone? Well, because death is unavoidable for everyone. So then the king might wonder, since this is beneficial and important to everyone, why is it such a rare question? It must be a common question. Everybody must be asking it. So I'll read you a little quote about how Śuka explained this. He said, very few people ask deep questions, Śuka answered. Their humanoid minds are completely absorbed in ordinary household chores, obsessed with thousands of mundane topics, and blind to spiritual realities. Their nights are wasted sleeping or spending their vitality like teenagers. Their days are wasted pursuing the endless burden of financial security for their clan. They have no time for anything else. But now the king said, okay, well that's the normal condition of people, but they must become sober when they finally realize that they're going to die. So Śuka explained that they ignore death until the very last moment. They think that the health of their unreal body will somehow return, or that their children and loved ones will somehow protect them. They hallucinate that they are surrounded by guardians and cannot see the destruction and doom closing in on them from all sides. So he goes into this heavy-duty stuff because he's explaining that the king's question really is great. Realizing that death is unavoidable, what should I do? This question is great because very few people realize that death is unavoidable. Everybody realizes it, but very few people admit it. Very few people embrace it. So very few people ask the question. However, the question is extremely beneficial to everyone. So it's a very, very important question. So then Śuka gives his answer. His answer is Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagwan Ishvara Hari Shrutavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyas Chechatavayam. If you really want to be fearless, because that's the issue. The issue is when you realize that death is unavoidable, what happens? That is fearsome. My God, I'm going to end. Everything's going to end. Maybe everything is going to disappear, actually. Everything is going to become nothing. Everything. That's frightening. So his answer to the question is, if you want to become fearless when faced with this fear, then, O Bharata, descendant of Bharat, talking to the king, you have to focus on Hari. Who is Hari? He's Sarvatma Bhagwan Ishvara. Hari is Ishvara. He's the master of everything. He is Sarvatma. He is the soul of everything. He is the essence of everything. And he is Bhagwan. This means he is all attractive. So if you want to become fearless, even when faced with the ultimate fear, non-existence, then focus on Hari, who is Ishvara Sarvatma Bhagwan, who is the master, the soul of the soul of everything, and the all-attractive. How? How should we focus? Shrotavya, kirtitavyascha, smartavyascha. We should Shrotavya, hear about Hari. Kirtitavyascha, we should speak about, celebrate Hari. Kirtan, kirtitavyas, we should do kirtan of Hari. Smartavyas, cha, we should think, remember, learn about Hari. So Smartavya comes from Shrotavya and Kirtavya. By hearing and speaking about Hari, then you can remember and learn about Hari. So that was in the 5th shloka of the chapter, first chapter. After this, there's a few verses where Śuka explains that this principle is true for everybody. See, most principles of morality are good in one circumstance but not good in another circumstance. Most religions have principles which are good in one case but not good in another case. So Śuka explains that this principle of always fixing the mind on Hari by hearing and chanting about him is good for everyone in every situation. This principle is valid for everyone, even the liberated souls who have nothing to do with the material world, nothing to do with fear, nothing to do with death. Now, naturally, now the king wants to know what's the most effective means of hearing and speaking or chanting about Hari. We're supposed to focus the mind on Hari by hearing and chanting about him. So what's the most effective means of doing that? Śuka answers this question. Very, very important verse of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He says, Etan nirviddamananam ichtam akuto bhayam yoginang nripa nirnitang harer namanukirtanam. There is no doubt that Harinam Sankirtan is the path to fearlessness for everyone and anyone, the desirous and the desireless, the sages and the worldly alike. So the king asks the question, when you realize that death is unavoidable, what should we do? The answer is we should focus the mind on something which is real. And ultimately the most real thing is Hari, the source of all reality. Sarvatma, Ishvaram, Bhagavan, the all-attractive source of all reality. And how should we focus the mind on the source of all reality, Hari? By hearing, chanting, and remembering. How to hear and chant? Harer Nam Anukirtanam, the Kirtana of Hari Nam. Who is it good for? Niveddimananam, for people that don't know anything. Ichatam, for people who have all kinds of desires. Akutobhayam, for people who have no fears at all. Liberated people. Yoginam, for people who are practicing spiritual paths. For anybody, basically, anybody and everybody. Path, there's no doubt. Nirnitam, there's no argument about it. There's no doubt that Harinam Sankirtan is the path to fearlessness for everyone and anyone. Jai. So that's the first section of the first chapter of this second canto. And next week we'll go into the second section. See you then. Hare Krishna.